She was America's sweetheart, the girl from Gossip Girl, the woman who built a brand on charm, beauty, and the kind of effortless glamour that makes magazine covers look easy. Blake Lively was not the type of celebrity people expected to see fighting for her life in a Manhattan courtroom. And yet, here we are. One film, one director, one alleged betrayal so deep, so calculated, and so ruthless that it is now heading toward what may be the most explosive Hollywood trial of the decade. We are talking about a $500 million lawsuit, a $400 million countersuit, Taylor Swift on the witness list, Ryan Reynolds allegedly exploding behind closed doors, a shadowy crisis management operative running a covert smear campaign across Reddit and TikTok, and a story the entertainment industry did not want told, about what really happens when a powerful woman on a film set dares to say no. This is the full story, and nothing has been left out. Blake Lively did not stumble into fame. She was born into it. Her father, Ernie Lively, was a working actor. Her mother, Elaine, worked as a talent scout. Growing up in Los Angeles meant growing up on sets, around cameras, around the rhythms of an industry that chews through people with mechanical indifference. Blake understood from an early age that Hollywood was not glamorous. It was a machine. She broke out in 2005 with the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, but it was Gossip Girl, the CW's addictively trashy teen drama that ran from 2007 to 2012, that turned her into a genuine cultural phenomenon. Serena van der Woodsen was every bit as aspirational as she was flawed. Gorgeous, reckless, perpetually the center of chaos. For millions of viewers aged 35 and under at the time, Blake Lively was Serena. The two became inseparable in the public imagination. She parlayed that fame intelligently. She married Ryan Reynolds, Deadpool himself, one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood, in 2012. She launched Preserve, a lifestyle brand, and then Betty Buzz, a premium mixers line. She built a social media presence that felt curated but never cold. She had 4 children and somehow managed to make even that look effortless. By 2024, Blake Lively was not just an actress. She was a brand, a business, a persona that had been meticulously constructed over 2 decades, which is exactly what made what came next so devastating. The project that would detonate everything was called It Ends With Us. Based on Colleen Hoover's best-selling 2016 novel, a romance that pivots without warning into a raw, unflinching examination of domestic violence, the film had been in development for years. The source material was beloved, the subject matter was serious, the expectations were enormous. Justin Baldoni was not a household name the way Blake Lively was, but he was respected. He was the star and creator of the inspirational series Jane the Virgin. He had directed 5 Feet Apart, a tearjerker about 2 teenagers with cystic fibrosis that grossed over $90 million worldwide. He had a reputation as a director who understood emotional storytelling, who could navigate sensitive material with care. On paper, Baldoni and Lively were the perfect partnership. He would direct, she would star. Together, they would bring Colleen Hoover's most personal story to the screen. What actually happened on that set is what this entire case is about. Production on It Ends With Us began in the fall of 2023 in New Jersey and New York. From the outside, everything looked fine. Behind the scenes, according to Blake Lively, the situation was becoming increasingly uncomfortable and then actively hostile. Lively had concerns about Baldoni's behavior from early in the process. She raised those concerns through the proper channels. She worked with an intimacy coordinator, which is standard industry practice for films involving sexual or violent content. Notes from those sessions were documented. What she could not have anticipated was how those very notes would later be weaponized against her. Baldoni's team would eventually argue that the intimacy coordinator's notes, which Lively used to establish the boundaries she wanted on set, were actually the basis for the claims she later made about him. In their telling, she manufactured a complaint from legitimate production documentation. Lively's lawyers tell a very different story. According to her legal filings, Baldoni entered her trailer uninvited while she was undressed. He made repeated comments about his own sex life. He pushed for intimate scenes that had not been previously discussed or agreed to. When she pushed back, when she drew lines, the atmosphere on set shifted in ways she found deeply troubling. She was not imagining it, and she was not alone. The film wrapped. The summer 2024 release date was announced. And then something deeply unusual began to happen online. It Ends With Us premiered in August 2024 and exceeded every box office expectation, a $50 million opening weekend that no one saw coming. By every financial metric, the film was a hit, but the coverage around it was poisoned from the start. Social media was flooded with posts criticizing Blake Lively's behavior on set, questioning her professionalism, mocking her promotional tour content. She posted a light-hearted Barbie-themed press tour photo that was pilloried as tone-deaf and disrespectful to the film's subject matter, domestic violence. The attacks came fast and in waves. They felt coordinated. They were coordinated. Lively's legal team later identified a Texas-based crisis management firm called Street Relations, operated by a man named Jed Wallace, who had been brought in as a subcontractor by Baldoni's publicists. According to Lively's filings, Wallace ran a covert operation involving fake accounts and astroturfed content designed to destroy her public image, seeding narratives on Reddit and TikTok that would spread organically while hiding their origin. A behavioral intelligence startup called Gudia later analyzed the online activity and found what it described as an inauthentic amplification network. Accounts pushing damaging narratives about Blake Lively showed significant overlap with accounts engaged in other coordinated celebrity harassment campaigns. This was not organic public opinion. This was industrial-grade reputation destruction. And it worked. Blake Lively's positive public sentiment was at 81% in March 2023. By January 2026, it had fallen to 10.6%. Blake Lively filed her initial complaint with the California Civil Rights Department in December 2024. It was a grenade dropped into the entertainment industry. She accused Baldoni of sexual harassment on set and retaliation after she spoke up. She alleged he had fostered a hostile work environment. She named not just Baldoni, but his production company, Wayfarer Studios, and the publicists she held responsible for the smear campaign that followed. The industry held its breath. Baldoni's team responded almost immediately, not just legally, but tactically. His attorney Brian Friedman launched what amounted to a parallel media operation. He announced plans to build a website publishing text messages and evidence that Friedman claimed would demolish Lively's allegations. He made statement after statement to the press. Lively's legal team went to court to stop him. They argued he was tainting the jury pool. The judge, Louis Lyman, issued a warning to both sides: keep it out of the press or face consequences. Nobody fully complied. In January 2025, Baldoni fired back with a $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds, and their publicist, Leslie Sloan. He accused them of defamation, civil extortion, and using their Hollywood influence to orchestrate a coordinated campaign to destroy his career. He claimed Lively had seized creative control of the film, rewriting key scenes, including a pivotal rooftop meeting, and had used a high-profile friend to pressure him into accepting her changes. That friend was Taylor Swift. The internet immediately fractured into camps. Team Blake pointed to the documented evidence of the smear campaign, the intimacy coordinator notes, and the chilling timeline of coordinated online attacks. They noted that Baldoni's $400 million countersuit was dismissed by Judge Lyman in June 2025. His case? Gone. Her case? Still very much alive. Team Baldoni pointed to text messages his team released publicly, including a warm message from Ryan Reynolds to Baldoni before filming began. and claimed the couple had weaponized their considerable Hollywood power to destroy an innocent man's career and company. Jenny Slate, who appeared in It Ends With Us, gave a deposition in which she described Baldoni in terms that were reported across every entertainment outlet in America. She was not complimentary. Taylor Swift, who had personally texted Blake Lively about Baldoni using language that was later quoted in court documents, found herself added to the witness list, a development that generated an entirely separate media frenzy. The judge had to push the trial date. The original date was March 9, 2026. It was moved to May 18th because, as Judge Lyman stated directly, criminal cases take precedence. A$AP Rocky's proceedings were competing for the same court calendar. The Blake Lively trial, the Taylor Swift witness list, the A$AP Rocky arraignment, all overlapping in the same Manhattan federal courthouse in the same spring. Hollywood has not seen a news cycle like this in years. Blake Lively has said very little publicly since the legal process began. That silence is intentional. Her legal team has been deliberate about it, framing her restraint as evidence of good faith while Baldoni's side continued making press statements. When her attorneys have spoken, their message has been consistent. Blake Lively followed every proper channel. She raised concerns professionally. She was retaliated against. The evidence will speak for itself at trial. In March 2026, Lively's team pushed back against a motion for sanctions against Baldoni's attorney, which the judge denied. But they simultaneously pushed forward aggressively on the core case, arguing that the evidence collected in discovery is too substantial and too damning to be resolved by summary judgment. They want a trial. They want a jury to see everything. Baldoni's team, for their part, continues to insist there was no harassment and no smear campaign. They maintain that Lively is the aggressor, that she seized creative control of the film, manufactured a harassment narrative from legitimate production documentation, and then deployed her wealth and celebrity connections to annihilate the reputation of a man who was her professional partner. Both sides are preparing as if settlement is impossible. Both sides have said, in various ways, that they are confident they will win. One of them is wrong. The damage to both parties has been severe. Blake Lively's public sentiment numbers, as tracked by Parrot Analytics, dropped from 81% to single digits over the course of this saga. Projects she had been attached to went quiet. Her social media presence became guarded, almost corporate, stripped of the warmth and personality that had made her a beloved figure for 2 decades. Justin Baldoni has had it worse. Wayfarer Studios, the production company he built and ran, has effectively ceased to function as a credible industry player. His countersuit was dismissed. The company he spent years building has been radioactive to potential partners and investors since the story broke. It Ends With Us, the film itself, made over $350 million worldwide. It was a genuine hit. Colleen Hoover, the author whose mother's story inspired the novel, publicly stated she was almost embarrassed to have her name attached to the project because the lawsuit had entirely overwhelmed the film's actual message about domestic violence. That is perhaps the most bitter irony in this entire story. A film made to shine a light on abuse and the courage it takes to leave a dangerous situation has been consumed by allegations of exactly the kind of abuse, the power imbalances, the coercion, the calculated destruction of a woman's credibility that the story was supposed to confront. Here's what gets buried in every headline about this case. The smear campaign targeting Blake Lively was not improvised. According to the evidence presented in court, it was a professionally designed operation, with a hired specialist, a documented strategy, and a network of amplification accounts designed to make manufactured outrage look like organic public sentiment. This is not a celebrity catfight. This is not he said, she said. What this case is actually exposing is something the entertainment industry has always known existed, but has never had to confront in a federal courtroom with this level of documentation. The infrastructure of reputation destruction that exists in Hollywood and that can be deployed against anyone, actor, director, executive, crew member, who steps out of line. Jed Wallace and street relations are not unique. Crisis managers who specialize in what the industry euphemistically calls narrative management have been operating in the shadows of Hollywood for decades. What makes this case different is that Lively's legal team traced the operation, documented it, and is presenting it as evidence in open court. If she wins, every publicist in Los Angeles will be watching over their shoulder. And if the full scope of what her legal team has assembled is as damning as it appears from the public filings, the fake accounts, the coordinated Reddit posts, the TikTok amplification networks, the text messages, the depositions from cast members, then what the jury hears on May 18th will not just be a verdict on one film's troubled production. It will be a verdict on how Hollywood has always treated women who refuse to be quiet. Blake Lively walked onto the set of It Ends With Us as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. She is walking into a Manhattan courtroom in May 2026 to fight for her name, her reputation, and her career. Whether you believe her or him, whether you think she is a victim or a power player who overreached, you cannot look away from this story. Because this story is about something bigger than one film, one director, or one actress. It is about whether the machine that makes Hollywood run can be held accountable for how it destroys people. The trial begins May 18th. We will be watching. If you want the full breakdown of what happens in that courtroom, every development, every twist, every bombshell dropped in front of that jury, subscribe to Hollywood Uncut. We are here every single day, and this story is nowhere close to over.